Hello, everyone. I'm Joshua Wong, activist from Hong Kong. Thank you for inviting me to join this meeting. Unfortunately, due to my meeting with human rights lawyer to prepare my court case on early July, I can't join this event directly. So that's the reason for me to record this video earlier. Um, I know lots of politicians, MPs, and journalists in the recent days and weeks really care about Hong Kong. I've also seen the parliamentary debate in the UK a few days ago, and there's some talks about extending the provision for BNO movement. And I would say that apart from the BNO movement, I also calling on UK government not to drop the commitment to demand universal suffrage and also continue to put pressure on the police brutality happening in Hong Kong, especially for UK born Hong Kong police officers. First, I will have to give a brief summary of what's my point of view to the visa offer. I would say that Hong Kongers, most of us welcome Boris Johnson's visa offer to 3 million Hong Kong citizens at the time when Beijing government completely ignored the will of Hong Kongers and imposed the draconian national security law over the city. And according to the latest poll, 64% of the city's population oppose China's black box legislation that completely bypass Hong Kong local legislature process. However, when Beijing chooses to ignore all critics and turn Hong Kong into another mainland city, we are calling for global solidarity to stand with Hong Kong. Especially, the law will have great implication for local civil society and investor interest in this global business center. And Beijing is literally imposing a CCP-led secret police agency to enforce Chinese law in the territories of Hong Kong. It's not only about secret police, it's also about the Hong Kong's judiciary independence will be strongly threatened since Beijing has already criticized local courts ruling last year, let alone more sensitive matters like national security. It will be a new weapon for Beijing to put pressure on UK companies like HSBC to side with China. Therefore, in order to safeguard Hong Kong's liberties and foreign business interests, I call upon the UK government to impose necessary sanctions and restrictive measures in order to push for the withdrawal of the evil bill and urge China to honor its promise of autonomy under this UN-fielded joint declaration. As my understanding, most of the participants of this conference and for this meeting will also understand what's the problem of the national security legislation. And as all we are aware, how more than 9,000 Hong Kongers were arrested, 1,300 of us were prosecuted, 100 of the fellow protesters were already physically locked up in prison. Now is the difficult times for Hong Kong, and no matter sanction and restrictive measure, embargoes or etc., will also should be considered in this critical moment. And I think how the national security law is also implying is not only the threat to Hong Kong people's political right, it also about how we are under the threat of Beijing, that the free flow of capital and the free flow of information might be strongly affected. On this video, I would also like to emphasize 2 issues. The first is about the HSBC. The next is about the Huawei 5G infrastructure. As we know that how HSBC top Asia Bureau has come out in support of the national security law, and HSBC provide a valid example to demonstrate how China will use the national security law as new leverage for more political influence over foreign business community in this global city. No matter business circles, banks, lawyers, and scholars fears that the law will introduce Chinese-style culture and censorship to Hong Kong. And it's foreseeable that more companies are forced to kowtow to Beijing once the law is implemented in Hong Kong. And under Beijing tightening grip, Hong Kong is no longer an autonomous city for investors and expats. In fact, foreign capital like traders and funds companies have long been regarded as a threat to national security by Beijing, especially during the China financial crisis in 2015. So under its wolf warrior diplomacy, express and foreign companies can easily become target of the new law due to its ambiguous definition of foreign force. And that's also the reason for me emphasize that I've already called on necessary sanction and restrictive measure. And with what happened for Charter and also for HSBC, I think this evil law introduced legal and political uncertainty to Hong Kong, and the world should also reconsider Hong Kong's special status in order to protect foreign interests as a way to push for the withdrawal of this evil law. So I know you guys might also ask me that apart from restrictive measure, embargo, sanction, or etc., how should UK deal with China? And I would say that it's also a reason for me to calling on UK to rule out Huawei from 5G infrastructure. With loose capital controls and economic freedom, Hong Kong has long been viewed as cash cow for Beijing, and China used Hong Kong currency, equity and debt market to attract foreign funds, with over 70% of China's foreign capital by Hong Kong. In order to send an effective warning signal to Beijing, I think the UK government should impose sanctions and introduce strict scrutiny on acquisition of British assets by China and Hong Kong-based company, especially dual-use technology and other security-sensitive items. And throughout the legislation, while China deliberately dismissed all concern raised by other countries and intensified tension with other places, when China has a rising hostility towards Western democracy, UK government should consider rule out Huawei from 5G infrastructure, because with the geopolitical tensions scale up the threat posed by the state-directed telecom company, and the evil law kills Hong Kong autonomy. Apart from issuing statement to calling on the withdrawal of the national security law is not enough. I think it's a time for UK to realize that it should be important for UK to set the requirement when they need to have further or future talks on the free trade deal with China, where the national security law imposed or not should also be put into the agenda. So thanks, Gil, for the invitation and for this brief sharing. No matter calling to rule out Huawei from the 5G infrastructure, my response to HSBC, and the situation calling on sanction, embargoes, and etc. I believe apart from BNOs or the UK citizenship, more important is UK government may take a tough stand to send a warning signal to Beijing how UK as the country signed on the joint declaration will stand with Hong Kong fellow protester. Thank you.